Hey everyone, I know it's been about a month since I've uploaded something, so I really appreciate your patience and your understanding. Things just got really busy in real life and kind of chaotic, and I just needed time for myself. But I am happy to be back here, although I won't be uploading as frequently as I did before. But sitting down here and talking about perfume is kind of my way to escape for even just a little bit all the craziness that's been going on in real life. So I find this to be kind of calming and relaxing to me. So even though I won't be putting up videos as often, I look forward to the time where I can sit down here and share my passion about scents and perfumes with you. During my time off, I really wanted to focus more on the perfumes I own, and I also found myself looking towards the past, kind of looking at the classics and fragrances that I tried years ago and that I revisited now. Because I was looking more towards the past, I wanted to do a video on the perfumes that I consider to be benchmark fragrances. So these are kind of like my reference scents. So let's say one of them has a particular note, a dominant note, or it belongs in a certain category. It's the fragrance that I tend to compare newer fragrances to when I'm testing things out and sampling things. I first want to start off with an honorable mention, and the reason why is because I don't have a full bottle of it, but I have this decant of it. I think it's my second decant of this fragrance. And the category that this fragrance would go under is the rose oud. I know that rose oud has been done to death. There are so many fragrances out there that can be categorized as a rose oud. Some other great ones include Oud Silk Mood. I actually prefer that over Oud Satin Mood from MFK. There's Oud Palau from Diptyque. Noir de Noir can technically be a rose oud, although the oud in that is very subtle and more in the background. But for my pick, I ended up going with Dior's Oud Ispahan. And this is from their La Collection Privée. I actually have the old formulation of this. I can't say how this compares to the newer version. I could only remember what it smelled like on paper. I would say they're very similar, but I think some people might say that there was definitely a reformulation. But again, I can't really speak to that. I smelled this a couple years after it was released. So I think this was released, I want to say in 2012. It was right around the time when rose oud was starting to pick up in Europe and North America. And I remember I was a little bit put off by the oud in this because it does smell like a very realistic oud. It does have that animalic touch, the fecal quality of some ouds. It's definitely in this, and it definitely comes out more on skin. But I just think the oud in this and the rose is very well balanced. I liked how the rose is very timeless. It's not tied down to a particular decade, not to me at least. I don't think it's a classic type of rose where it's aldehydic. I wouldn't even say that it's a lot like the modern roses that we have that tend to be quite spicy. This one, it's more of like a jammy type of rose. And again, it's just so well balanced with the oud. And every time I try a rose oud fragrance, I often compare it to this because this was one of the first rose ouds I've tried. Now, I don't know if I'll buy a full bottle because I don't see myself wearing this often, which is why I just have a decant of it, but it is one that I will treasure because I know this is not cheap, and I do like this formulation as it is. To start off my actual list, I wanted to first begin with the Abstract Floral scent. I think most people would probably pick Chanel No. 5 as the exemplary fragrance for this category, but I can't wear Chanel No. 5 yet. I like the Eau Première version, but I can't see myself wearing the original Chanel No. 5 in any of its forms. So I decided to go with Kenzo, or Flower by Kenzo. And I actually started wearing this a lot more when I found out that Takada Kenzo passed away. He was the one who started the fashion brand. But even before his death, this was something I enjoy wearing. I think it's one that is a little bit polarizing. If you look at sites like Fragrantica and you look at how many people dislike it, I don't think it's a well-loved perfume, but I actually really do enjoy this, and I admire what Alberto Marias was trying to do with this when he created this. So this came out back in 2000, and the concept of this, I think, was what really drew me to this perfume. It's called Flower, but if you look at the design of this, this is supposed to be, I believe, a poppy flower, and poppy flowers, or at least ones that I've encountered, don't really have a distinct smell. So I think it's really interesting that they decided to mix in different floral notes and put it in this one perfume and kind of mix it up in a way where it's almost hard to tell what flower is being used in this. So like I said, it's an abstract floral, and it does remind me a lot of the bright clothing that came out of this house. It's fun, it's flirty, it doesn't take itself too seriously, but at the same time, I think there is something very soothing about this too. I like wearing this to bed. It kind of helps me sleep for some reason. I think it's because of the powderiness from the violets. And yeah, I don't know. I just think this is one that I really admire and I enjoy wearing, even though it seems like a lot of people don't like this. Next is the vanilla fragrance, and I know there are so many fragrances out there that have vanilla as a main note, but there is one in my collection that I had to pick, and that is Shalimar. I have the Eau de Toilette, and even though I have my personal issues with Guerlain and LVMH, and honestly any huge conglomerate corporation that just puts out so many fragrances in a year and don't really focus much on uniqueness anymore, I would be a fool to ignore this and ignore the impact that this has had on the history of perfumes and also on my own personal fragrance journey. I've mentioned before that I first smelled this on some customers that came into our house because my grandmother was a dressmaker, and a lot of our customers tend to wear this for some reason. I didn't realize that they were wearing Shalimar at the time, but when I tried this out at a counter, that's when I understood that those ladies that I met when I was a kid were wearing this fragrance. So the vanilla in this has a depth to it. There is a touch of leather in the other concentrations, particularly the Extrait de Parfum. I don't get it as much in this one, but there is a hint of this animalistic note in it. I get a little hint of that. And the citrus notes in this is quite nice too. I just love how it blends in with the vanilla. The vanilla in this is quite powdery, and every time I put this on, I just feel like I am putting something on that is quite special. I don't think I can wear this out on a casual day. I'm not quite ready to do that yet, but I do like to put this on before bed. I find it to be quite soothing. Again, I think it's because of that vanilla powderiness that I get from it. But yeah, honestly, when I try vanilla fragrances, I often compare it to this because I think it is one of the first vanilla fragrances that I have smelled in life. And I think it really shaped how my tastes have turned out and what perfumes I tend to gravitate towards. Next, I want to go with a citrus fragrance. And I know there's so many citrus fragrances out there. I wanted to go with a cologne for sure because it just makes sense considering the definition of what a cologne is. This one has a high concentration of citrus, and for my choice I went with Orange Sanguine. And I could have went with another one in my collection. I have Pomelo Paradis, but I ended up taking from my husband's collection because I like to wear this a lot too, even though he wears it more often than I do. But this is the most realistic orange fragrance that I've smelled. It smells so much better on skin, but even on paper, it kind of makes my mouth water because of the tartness of the orange that's in this. I mentioned before that even though this is supposed to imitate the smell of a blood orange, it actually smells more like a Suma orange to me, including the rind of it, all the juices in it. But the dry down of this is really beautiful too. It has a rosiness, I think, from the geranium, and then the woodiness kind of helps ground the citrus. It kind of lays down that foundation for the citrus to stick on. So this doesn't last that long on me, but I do smell it on my husband a lot for a long time. And I honestly think that even though I enjoy wearing this on myself, it smells so much better when you smell it on someone else. So yeah, I had to pick this one for a citrus benchmark fragrance. I also love a green rose. I like roses to begin with, but it does make me a little bit happier when there's a slight hint of green. So I picked up something new. I've tried this scent for a long time. I've smelled it years ago. I like the eau de toilette concentration as well as the EDP, but it wasn't until I tried the solid version, the solid perfume version, that really made me want to pick this up. So I have L'Ombre dans l'eau from Diptyque, and again, I have the solid version. It comes like this, and even though it's tiny, it feels very heavy in the hand. And I will spray the eau de toilette because this is the first version of this fragrance that I've smelled. And I do like the eau de toilette. It's the greenness, I think, does stick around for a little bit longer. The initial spray of it though can be a little bit brash. I think there is some citrus notes that come out in the beginning. I do prefer the solid perfume because it smells a little bit more rounded to me. It has more of the spiciness of the cassis that I enjoy, and the sweetness of this is juicier. I think it's coming from the cassis and the rose. So that's why I picked the solid perfume. The green notes that I get from this smells just like my grandpa's tomato leaf garden, or his tomato garden. And honestly, it doesn't perform that badly. It lasts about 6 to 7 hours on my skin, so it's not bad. And the sillage isn't bad either. The eau de toilette is good as well if you prefer the spray form. So it's really, you know, up to your personal preference. But every time I am looking for a green rose, I just find myself comparing it to this. So I'm happy to have this in my collection now. The last two are from the same brand, and I wanted to include at least one from this house because it's one of the first niche houses that I've tried. So I did find myself comparing a lot of newer fragrances to the fragrances from this house. So the first one from this house I want to present is À la Nuit. And this to me is a gold standard for Soliflor jasmines. And jasmine is a favorite note of mine. Not a favorite of a lot of people in my life, but that's okay. This one is a slightly bitter and indolic jasmine. It smells just like the jasmine bushes that I see around the neighborhood. But I do like it. It smells a little bit more animalistic on paper. On my skin, the creaminess comes out. I sometimes get creamy facets of jasmine when I smell a real jasmine flower, and I appreciate that it kind of has that in the perfume. There's nothing quite like this. I've tried many jasmine fragrances. There are a lot of good ones out there, but I just always find myself going back to this. And I know it's not a popular one. A lot of people might say it smells like old lady, but I don't know. I don't make that association with white florals. I just think Christopher Sheldrick did such a great job capturing the essence of jasmine. And I think people make the mistake of thinking that a Soliflor, like a Soliflor jasmine, is just getting the flower and kind of diluting it. But to really capture the flower, you have to add in a lot of notes and kind of work your magic to make it smell this way. So that's what I really appreciate about this. Last but not least is a popular one, I think, in the fragrance community. I have Chergui, and I am picking this for my benchmark tobacco scent. I love tobacco in fragrances, and this is one of the first ones I've tried. I did not like it before because it is quite strange, especially if you're not used to smelling hay. But I think the hay kind of adds a dryness to it that it needs. Otherwise, the honey would make it way too cloying. And I do like other fragrances like Tobacco Vanille. It's nothing like this, but for some reason, I think a lot of people like to put these side by side. They're nothing alike. I do prefer Tobacco Vanille on my husband because of how sweet it is. It's too sweet on my skin, but this one, it smells differently on him than on me. And I like how this is kind of like a chameleon, just depending on who wears it. On me, the iris definitely comes out more, so it's a lot more powdery, and I get a little bit more of the floral nuances of the iris. And the tobacco is there, but it is softened on my skin. On my husband, the amber comes out more, and it does smell slightly animalistic on him. But I think this is such a great special occasion type of fragrance to wear. And I really enjoy it. I like wearing it in the colder months. So yeah, there's not a tobacco scent that I think comes close to this. There are other ones I've tried recently. One that I really like that I have tested out is Mon Tobacco from Ormond Jane. So if you want a less sweet tobacco scent, that is one that you should check out. But Chergui to me is just the benchmark fragrance that I really like for tobacco scents. So those are my benchmark fragrances. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you so much for sticking around even though I haven't been uploading as frequently. But I just wanted to thank you all for your support and just even leaving comments. That is my favorite part, I think, of doing these videos. I could care less about the likes, the subscription numbers. I don't really care much about that, but the interactions and some of the friendships I've made from this platform has just been really rewarding to me, and I just really appreciate that. So thank you for your love and support. So I will sign off now. Hopefully you'll see another video from me soon. I have a lot of ideas for content to put out. It's just a matter of finding the time to sit down and do it and edit, but I hope to do that soon. So I'll see you next time. Please take care. I hope you are well and staying healthy.